Hey guys, it's KJ from the Scariest Movie Ever channel on YouTube. And have you heard about all of these creepy clowns creeping all around? Not just in America, it's actually happening all around the world. And it's been happening more and more over the last few years. Now, a few of these stories made the mainstream, and you may have heard of them. But when I personally started looking more into this, I was shocked at how often this is actually happening. And these stories are pretty creepy. What's going on? The way these clowns are acting. So let's take a look at these creepy clowns creeping and investigate a bit of the madness behind the makeup. So throughout our history, clowns have always been seen as the prankster, the jester, the joker, the harlequin, the tricksters, and they've been around for ages. They appear in most cultures. Pygmy clowns, for instance, made Egyptian pharaohs laugh in 2500 BCE. There were court clowns back in Imperial China. In ancient Imperial China, they had court clowns, which were the only people in the court that were allowed to poke fun at the emperor himself. Hopi Native Americans had a tradition of clown-like characters that would interrupt very serious dance rituals with ludicrous and insane antics. Even ancient Rome's clown was a stock fool called the stupidus. The court jesters of medieval Europe were a sanctioned way for people under the feudal thumb to laugh at the people in charge. And we still see that playing out today. The powers that be, the beast system, whatever term you want to put on it, still promote their clowns. These clowns become very popular. The people love their clowns. This is a way for the people to laugh back at those in charge, the people at the top of the pyramid. This pacifies the public. But clowns have always had a dark side. After all, these were characters who reflected a funhouse mirror back on society. Academics throughout history have written that the comedy from these clowns was derived from their voracious appetites for food, sex, drink, maniacal and manic behaviors. So in one way, the clown has always been an impish spirit, as he's kind of grown up, but he's always about, quote, fun. But part of that fun has always been about mischief. Mischief is one thing, homicidal urges certainly another. And what's changed about clowns is how that darkness has manifested more and more throughout them throughout the centuries, even up to now. So it turns out that clowns have long been associated with a dark and disturbing history. Murder, financial ruin, infidelity, pedophilia, all of these things have stained the clowning profession. The earliest documented clowns date all the way back to 2400 BCE in ancient Egypt. Clowns appeared in ancient Greek and Roman societies as well, eventually evolving into court jesters in the late Middle Ages. Now, these professionals would openly mock sex, food, drink, and the monarchy, all the while behaving maniacally for a laugh and keeping the public pacified. Famous London entertainer Joseph Grimaldi was said to have invented the modern clown in the early 1800s. Grimaldi performed physical comedy while wearing white face paint with red patches on his cheeks and bizarre, colorful costumes. He was known for being extremely depressed outside his routine. His first wife died during childbirth. His father was actually a bit of a tyrant himself, and his own son became an alcoholic clown that actually drank himself to death by the age of 31. Around that same time in France, everyone was laughing at Jean Gaspard de Barreau's character called Pierrot. He was a clown character with a white face, black eyebrows, and red lips. One of the first professional silent mimes. He was universally beloved in France, but in 1836, du Barreau killed a small boy with a blow from his cane after the little boy had taunted him. Though he was ultimately acquitted, the image of the killer clown stuck in the public consciousness. In 1892, an Italian opera called Pagliacci became extremely popular with the public. The main character was Canillo, a crazy clown who had murdered his cheating wife on stage during the final act. Clowns eventually became an integral part of big top circuses, acting as comic relief to the death-defying circus stunts. At the circus, humor, horror, and death were all intertwined with the help of the clowns. If you think about it, the clown's art form is rather terrifying and full of anxiety and apprehension. Suicidal feats, monstrous gesticulations, and frenzied mimicry reminding one of the courtyard of a lunatic asylum. And of course, we can't talk about the madness behind the makeup of the clowns without mentioning John Wayne Gacy. He was a registered clown who went by the name of Pogo, and he was arrested for sexually assaulting and killing more than 35 young men in the Chicago area back in the 1970s. He told investigating officers, "You know, clowns can get away with murder." This image of the demonic, evil clown has haunted many children's nightmares. This story right here is from October of 2014. Creepy armed clowns menace California town. Now these weren't just people running around wearing clown suits. The reports of these creepy clowns carrying knives and other weapons have been scaring people in the California city of Bakersfield for quite a while. In fact, in one incident, a person actually telephoned the police department on a Saturday night reporting that one of the clowns armed with a firearm had been following him around. The police chief in Bakersfield said that he had been having sightings all over the city at that time. They ranged anywhere from a guy carrying a gun to a guy carrying a knife to a guy running up to houses and looking into windows. Here's another story from October of 2014 in a completely different area. Creepy clown prowls Fishers. The Fishers Police Department is urging residents to call police if they spot a person dressed in a clown suit in the area. And at this time, the police reported the same as many of the other cases with these weird, creepy clowns. Some of them were armed, some were carrying balloons around, many were walking around in darkness and in the shadows and peeping through people's windows. And this was another report about the creepy clowns from Wasco, California, once again in October of 2014. Also in October of 2014 in a completely different area. This here is from Macomb, Mississippi. Creepy clown wanders city streets. Now what you're looking at here is probably one of the most publicized accounts of these creepy clowns. Perhaps it's the one that really started them all. Now this right here is the Northampton clown from the United Kingdom. Sightings of the Northampton clown started around September of 2013. People reported sightings of it throughout the entire month. They said he had balloons, but he never handed them out. He never spoke, he didn't juggle, he didn't cut any jokes, he just stood there, staring at you. And here we have another story about these creepy clowns that took place in November of 2013 over in the United Kingdom in a city called Norfolk. Norfolk police warn of alarming clown epidemic. And here's another story about clowns that came to us back in October of 2014 once again, this time in the city of Portsmouth. Mystery clown spotted in Portsmouth creeps out city. The Portsmouth clown has been seen stroking people in the street and scaring others in shops. This particular clown enjoyed scaring strangers. In fact, many people called in and complained that he would even ride a little bike around at times and circle children. He was even accused of chasing people through the streets. And this story comes to us from May of 2015. It took place in Melbourne, Australia, where somebody wearing an angry clown mask boarded one of the trains. They moved to a spot at the very end of the section, sat there alone, and just stared the rest of the passengers down for the entire ride, never saying a word. And by far one of the most disturbing creepy clown stories I've seen comes to us from September of 2014. This took place in France. Clown terror spreads in France. A wave of panic sparked by evil clowns stalking French towns has spread to the south of France, where police on Saturday night had arrested 14 teenagers dressed as the pranksters, carrying pistols, knives, and baseball bats. Also, in one of the nearby cities, a man disguised as a clown was actually arrested after beating up a pedestrian with an iron bar, while 3 motorists in different towns complained about scary clowns threatening them as well. In another town in France, a 19-year-old received a 6-month suspended jail term for threatening passers-by while dressed as a clown. These clowns, it's reported, had also been spotted outside of schools, but also on public roads, in bushes, in a square. Their targets were often young children or teenagers, but also adults. See here, the creepy clowns in France wasn't just an isolated incident. This was happening all over the place. The story comes to us once again from October of 2014. Clown terror spreads in France. Another teenager arrested. A 14-year-old dressed as a clown had been arrested near Paris for attempting to attack a woman in one of the latest incidents of fake evil clowns terrorizing passers-by in France. And here's another creepy clown story that comes to us from July of 2014 in Brooklyn, New York. Creepy clown haunts Brooklyn's Greenwood Cemetery. The ghoulish jester silently wandered the historic graveyard carrying a fistful of pink balloons. And here we have another story of a creepy clown in New York, this one from March of 2014. Creepy Staten Island clown spotted around Borough, spooks residents. First seen about 2 weeks ago, the clown stands idly on the street day and night, holding balloons and waving to petrified passers-by. Which brings us to the most recent sightings of the creepy clowns, and this one took place in July of 2015 at a cemetery in Chicago. Creepy slow-waving clown in Chicago cemetery caught on camera, but he wasn't just waving. They actually caught him climbing a fence and going into the cemetery. So of course in a lot of these cases the mainstream would have us believe it's just a handful of pranksters, maybe it's just some kids putting on masks. But as you can see here, this is happening globally. And these people aren't just pranking. In some cases they are, but in some cases they're carrying weapons, they're assaulting people, they're peeking into people's windows, they're really scaring people out there. So typically I'll look at things like this more through the spiritual, and this is what I wonder when I see things like this. All these creeping clowns, this madness behind the makeup. Is this just another sign? Is this another manifestation of that negative dark energy that seems to be encompassing the entire globe at this time? Either way, it seems we have a bit of an epidemic. What is it that is causing all of these creepy clowns to creep?